The goal of this webinar, of course, is to provide you, the chapter leaders, with a quick introduction to organizational structure, as well as some of the available tools and resources that we make available, and also give a quick overview on some of the chapter's required obligations that you might incur through the process of during the course of the year as the chapter officer. Our presentation today will follow these basic topics of discussion. Of course, there's the governing structure. The big part of this presentation will be, of course, the resources, tools, and services available to you as chapter leaders and to members of your chapters as well. I mentioned the chapter's annual obligations. There's a few of those we're going to be going over, and just a real basic overview about how the chapter system fits into the league and the importance of you as an officer. Again, our objective is to help you, the chapter leaders, manage your chapter operations, conserve natural resources, and promote outdoor recreation. As far as our governing structure goes, the league is, of course, a volunteer-driven, bottom-up organization that depends on members for volunteer support, leadership, and their commitment to what we call common sense solutions to conservation issues that face us in our nation. The chapter of the Isaac Walton League is a group of members in the local area that are given a charter by the Isaac Walton League's executive board, in order for you to carry out the league's mission locally. However, in this structure, there's one person we like to point out that you should be that's worth emphasizing. The relationship between the chapter and the assigned national director as the chapter liaison is critical connection for your communications and success. The national director also serves as a link between the state division, where applicable, of course, and also certain chapters. It's also expected to communicate with and visit your chapter as often as possible and be willing to assist your chapter in any issues it might incur. So it's critical that you get to know your national director and keep an open dialogue with this national leader through the process of the year. The League's national office provides a wide variety of support materials to help chapter leaders and members manage their chapter operations, as well as conserve natural resources and promote outdoor recreation. This is an outline of the categories that you'll find in this particular document that we have online. It's called Resources, Tools, and Services Available to Chapters, obviously. This document, as I said, is online. I'll show you later on where you can find it, and it will show much greater detail. The first segment on this outline was the chapter leadership and management. Of all these different documents and services that are available, I'd have to say probably the most critical one here would be the chapter manual, which is available in the notebook in a CD-ROM format, and I'll show you a little bit more about that later on. And also, I think what is new on this list would be the sample governing documents, and this is a sample of chapter articles of incorporation and bylaws, which will come in helpful for those of you chapters who are faced with trying to modernize your current chapter's articles of incorporation and bylaws. And perhaps this is a good rainy day project if your chapter sees fit down the road. Under the category of communications, besides the obvious publications are printed and electronic publications, we also offer some support for your chapter as far as website development and also developing your use of social media. Obviously, it's in our lifetime that we've seen this technology made available to many organizations, businesses, and individuals, and we find more and more that chapters who utilize the website, utilize the internet, and now social media are finding greater success in their growth and their promotion and in establishing their namesake in their community and as leaders in conservation. Other services, of course, include a DVD that we can make available if you want to link it into or tie it into your website or use it as part of your chapter membership orientation, new members orientation that is, and then also magazine subscriptions to get the name out, the League's name out into the community. can I say, conservation is our mission, and we provide the means to support your local chapter's conservation advocacy work, as well as many of you also know, that the hallmark of the League's commitment to clean water has been empowering citizens to protect and restore waterways. And we can obviously provide, as you can see on this list here, the technical support that your chapter needs for its on-the-ground efforts to promote, restore, and protect the waterways in your community. And in the continuation of our conservation resources, we also offer something that's new this year, and that's, of course, our five-year program, our five-year initiative called the Clean Water Challenge, which we are promoting and advocating for citizens all over the country to monitor the quality of streams in over 100,000 streams by the year 2020. And obviously there's a lot of the support materials and tools that you would need to be part of this process found in this segment. Membership is the, obviously all your chapters have your own membership officer, and hopefully a membership committee that supports that officer. So through the years, the membership staff here have developed a wide variety of supplies and training to support your chapter's efforts to recruit and retain members. Again, a continuation, and we're also modernizing the process with the help of the internet. Obviously, as you can see here, particularly two things that come to mind. Previously, we added the online capability for chapters to renew their members, and starting this year, now we also have the ability for chapters to sign up their new members online as well. Again, keeping in mind this works strictly with the PayPal payment process, but it has made a big difference in expediting the processing of memberships and helping chapters at their local area. Also, what's new this year as well, it was actually the beginning of this year, was the online national directory. For some of you previous officers who had some experience, you remember receiving a copy of the directory. It is now available online. It's real-time, on-demand, so the information in there is most current, and that is found online through the chapter to the officer tools segment of the website. The other segment here in the resources, tools, and services available to chapters is promotions and marketing. Marketing the League brand is important for all of us. We all benefit from that, and having a unified standard look. Many of you have probably used some of these items, whether it be the customized chapter brochure, the promotional posters, and even some of you have gone as far as to recently purchase a custom chapter pop-up display. Also, let's not forget we maintain the program for you to recognize your members and for your chapter to be likewise recognized through our awards recognition program. And of course, the League sells a wide variety of patches, pins, caps, flags, T-shirts, and hoodies, just to name a few. So you'll find that these again are available for chapters for purchase and use. Lastly, in this resource document, many of our chapters have always and still continue to want to support engaging youth in the outdoors. And as you can see here, we have also developed through the years a variety of support materials to help the chapters with this process, including, I would say, probably the most important one. I'm a bit biased, but not important, but it has a lot of information, and that's this Engaging Youth in the Outdoors manual. But you can see there's other activity materials, booklets, worksheets, guides for kids to do science projects with stream monitoring. And we, of course, even maintain a National Conservation Scholarships, which supports right? In fact, complements the efforts that chapters do with their scholarship program. And of course, this particular scholarship is funded by the Isaac Walton League of America Endowment, so we are grateful for their support on that. Please take note of some of these key and important available references and resources. Of course, the chapter manual, which I mentioned earlier, that was actually distributed to every chapter back in 2009. It is available and was sent to them in a notebook and a PDF on a CD-ROM format. If your chapter no longer has it, I'll have a contact person at contact information at the end of the webinar here, and you can reach out to me and I'll try to get you another copy. For sure, I can get you all unlimited number of copies of the CD-ROM. And likewise, the chapter volunteer training module, which is a data DVD, it's essentially a PowerPoint presentation that's the overview of what you find in the manual with a narrator voice on it. This, I know a lot of chapters have actually taken this on and used these to give for training for their own new officers when they come in. So this is something to consider later on. This came out maybe about 2011, 2012, but again, it's current and it complements the chapter manual. Probably the biggest place to find a lot of the resources is on the web page, and of course it's the website www.iwla.org/chapter-resources. As you read here, you bring it up, this will be the screen you'll see. We're constantly adding access to other items, including this webinar will eventually be located at this site. And as I mentioned earlier before, that the resources, tools, and services available to chapters, it's an online PDF. It's available here. Once you go on the website, you'll be able to just click right to here, and it'll bring up that PDF, and you'll have that. It goes in much greater detail than what obviously I did with the outline, including how you could find and how you could order and where do you find the link for certain resources, tools, and services that we make available to chapters. In addition to maintaining the chapter, maintaining the membership records and submitting dues payments, there are 4 major obligations that each chapter needs to be aware of. They include IWLA, IRS Compliance Chapter Reporting, and the other one is the Elections and Officer Reporting, Membership Memorandum Confirmation Updates, submitting results of the conservation and outdoor recreation activities. Let's go a little bit more detail on that. The first one, the national bylaws require that annually chapters report and submit certain information to the national organization. Further, of the 230 chapters we have out there, about 150 of you are under the League's Nationals organization's IRS 501c3 nonprofit tax-exempt group coverage. So receiving this information back to us is vital for us to certify to the IRS, and we have to do that annually, that a given chapter has met the basic charitable purposes. Why is tax-exempt status valuable? Well, it's valuable for your members so that their donations made to the chapter are tax deductible, as well as in part some of the dues that might be tax deductible. Also, it's key to the chapter who receives donations and would be obviously and hopefully applying for grants. This 501c3 status is critical. And in some cases, certain chapters are able to maintain state sales tax exemption as well as property tax exemption with this status. Not every state, not every chapter, but in some cases, some do. So it's critical that you are able to maintain this. So this reporting, this IRS, IWLA compliance reporting process is critical. That happens every summer months. You'll receive the questionnaire mailer, and it's usually directed to initially to the president, and the second notice would go out to the president and the treasurer in case the president overlooked it or didn't receive it. And again, it's a very important process. As I said before, chapter questionnaire, it goes into details about we need to know the results of your educational, conservation, and outdoor recreation activities, particularly, and also meetings. We also request proof of required insurance. That's indicated in the national bylaws, and some of the details, the way it has to be maintained and written. Obviously, the IRS, we need a copy of at least shown that the proof that you submitted something to the IRS. In some cases, some chapters send us a full W-990. Other cases, it's just a simple copy of the postcard. This will vary from state to state, but state corporate registration requirements vary. Some are an annual renewal, some are multiple years. Again, we need to have proof of that has been fulfilled. And lastly, the chapter's articles of incorporation and bylaws. We maintain current copies of these two documents in our files, but when any amendments occur, we need to have we must have an updated version of the bylaws, or in some cases, the articles of incorporation as amended. The next obligation is the elections and officer reporting. So why is this so important? Well, as I mentioned earlier, we need to know who the presidents and the treasurers are, so we can send some of the annual compliance questionnaire out to, but also just all other types of communications that might be specialized. And I'll go into some of the other topics here. Communication specialties, if you have a webmaster, so we can communicate with the webmaster, for your newsletter editor, for your media outreach, for Save Our Streams. So knowing who the newly elected or re-elected officers is critical. And again, for accurate, they aid in the process for communications, as the flow of information between chapters, the state divisions, and the national organization is really critical to the success of the league. Again, the initial, the responsibility of this process is normally the president and secretary, although sometimes the membership officer would also have the ability to submit online changes and eventually or paper. And I mentioned earlier that it's not just about the obvious chapter executive officers such as the president, the vice president, the secretary, or treasurer, but also we seek and will record a variety of other types of officers, key committee chairs, and volunteer positions in your chapter, which I think as you can imagine by looking at this list, you probably could see that there's some people in your chapter that we don't know who's maybe managing the awards program. And for the chapters with shooting sports facilities, if there is a key person who's handling the shooting sports overview, webmasters, I mentioned that, just to name a few. The membership memorandum occurs annually each June, and it's mailed to the then known chapter membership officer. Another name for the membership officer is, of course, the MDR, which stands for the membership dues recipient. It's a little bit of the old school there. But the membership officer receives this memorandum, asks for verifications on certain things. Excuse me. They ask to update and to verify who the chapter membership officer is. In some cases they change in the course of the year, and we need to know that. Also, we need to verify where we print on the renewal invoices the mail to address. If it had been going to the previous membership officer and it's a new membership officer, or if the chapter changed or got a P.O. box, or just to verify if it goes to the P.O. box or to the mailbox. And also, lastly, are there any changes in the due structure within the chapter? Some chapters it might occur to them that they raise their dues, and we need to have that information so they can be processed and put in, so that we'll have a timely return, hopefully a timely return on this request by the end of summer as we prepare, generate, print, and ship in bulk next year's chapter renewal invoices. Again, those are obviously timing-wise, they've already gone out for next year. And if there's any membership officers online now on the webinar, they'll know what I'm talking about. and many of you other chapter officers may have helped out or been part of that process before. Again, this is mailed to the chapter membership officer. We also have available online, it's the Chapter Accomplishments Tool, which is an online portal to gather results of chapters' conservation and outdoor recreation activities. These collected results on conservation and outdoor recreation activities will, of course, raise the visibility. The key to information helps raise the visibility of an organization at all levels, whether it be the locally or the national organization. To show the impact of the chapter, it demonstrates the impact that your presence has in your community. To motivate support, it shows results to motivate donors to give support, not just to the national organization because of the work that's being done locally, but as well as locally. You should be taking advantage of this information. Not only do we need to share this information, report this information, but you should be collecting it and also using the information to advance your chapter locally. It's important. Currently, a variety of officers have access to this tool, and you'll be hearing more and more about this in the near future as its uses are being advanced. The last segment is a real quick overview again. As I mentioned before, we're a bottom-up organization with the members, the chapters, divisions, up to the national organization. And to fulfill the League's mission locally in the community, chapters have an impact in their state as well as regionally. Since the founding of the League, chapters have worked at the local level to conserve our environment and promote enjoyment of the outdoors. So by design, each chapter is structured with similar leadership positions, duties, and responsibilities. And again, just a quick overview. You as a chapter officer, you have a variety here of duties, more or less obligations to some degree. It's to recruit new members. Again, it benefits everybody. To oversee and manage your chapter and its assets. Some chapters, have properties. Some have cooperative efforts. Some adopt a spot and do work in the community, in parks, and along streams, along roadways. To promote responsible use of the natural resources in all aspects, whether it's on your property or within your community. Implement the conservation projects and outdoor activities in your communities. And lastly, represent the chapter's interests at the state and national levels, whether it's to attend a division meeting, send a delegates to those division meetings and the state convention, as well as participate at the national level by either sending a state chapter delegates to the national convention or having certain members of your chapters step forward to become national and state leaders as well. Well, so as I mentioned earlier, this webinar will be posted online for future references. And again, it's the website I showed before, the IWLA.org/chapter-resources. And my contact information, should you see anything that we talked about today, and you would like to have a copy of, say, another DVD, a data DVD for the chapter volunteer leadership training module, or a CD-ROM for the chapter manual, or Engaging Youth in the Outdoors manual, or just to reiterate some of the links of where some of this information is found, please use this chapters@IWLA.org, or feel free to contact me on the IKE line, which is the toll-free line, and my extension is 216. I believe I rushed through this thing faster than I thought I would have, but I'd like to open this up for any questions that you might have. And Amy, I'll turn it back to you if you want to connect us with anybody in the group.
Hi, Earl. We've had a few comments, but I'm going to send those to you privately because they're a little bit more in-depth.
Okay.
And they're a little bit more specific on certain things for those specific chapters. So I'll just pass those along. Otherwise, there's going to be a recording sent out today. So if you got the email for the webinar, you'll get the recording too. If for some reason you don't receive it by the end of the day, please email Earl or email our main email box, which is info, I-N-F-O, at IWLA.org, and I'll be sure to check in on that and get you the recording. So I think
is it possible, I think we have an email address for everybody here. I can actually send out to you a copy, at the very least, that PDF of the resources, tools, and services available to chapters. And I can't think of anything else at this point other than, again, we thank you all for all your efforts and all you're doing to help promote the League's mission. And you know, I know all well to myself as a volunteer for many organizations, including a local chapter of the Isaac Walton League, that your time and talent is very much appreciated, and we hope you have a great and prosperous year and years to come.
Hey, Earl, we do have a question about how do you find out who your national director is? Do you have to log in to the database online to find out that information?
Yes, that's a good point. The new chapter, the new online directory, there is a segment there where you can look in and you can print out the data for your particular chapter. We integrated this year for the first time into the listing of a chapter's information who their national director liaison is. There was a time before it was a large chart in the back of the directory. And again, the part of the problem with the printed directory was there were changes in leadership. There were changes in who the national director might have occurred in the middle of the year. Thus, the assignment went that way. I'd say, again, online directory, I don't have it in front of me right now, but it's under chapter and division officers, and your particular chapter listing would show up, and at the very top, probably below the name, the chapter ID number, the chapter property and or meeting site is going to be a line that's going to say National Director Liaison.